The stars were silent, but the silence carried fear. 1,000 alien ships filled the void like a swarm of predators, their weapons glowing, their engines howling through the dark sea of space. Entire planets had already fallen under their shadow. Civilizations begged for mercy, but none was given. The invaders crushed everything in their path, leaving only ruins, fire, and the empty echoes of voices that would never rise again. In the middle of this destruction, stories began to spread. Whispers traveled between refugee fleets, between broken stations, between alien species who had lost all hope. The whispers spoke of a ship. Not a fleet, not an empire, just a single ship. It was said to be human. And when it roared, even the mighty would tremble. But most did not believe. How could one ship stand against thousands? How could one small species, humans, creatures so new to the galactic stage, carry such power? The refugees spoke of it with half hope, half madness. Some laughed at the thought, others prayed it was true. On the edge of a burning system, a small alien transport was running for its life. Its engines coughed smoke, its shields were broken, and enemy fire followed close behind. Inside, families clung to each other, eyes wide with terror. The captain, a scaled being from a desert world, slammed his claws on the console, trying to push his failing ship forward. Behind them, 3 enemy warships closed in, weapons armed. The end was seconds away. Then the stars shook. It was not a sound anyone could hear, but they felt it. A deep vibration, as if the void itself had growled. From the dark, something emerged. It was not large compared to the enemy fleets, nor shining with the beauty of advanced alien design. No, this ship looked old, heavy, almost brutal. Its armor was thick, scarred with battles long past. Its weapons pointed outward like the teeth of a beast. And painted on its side, in faded white letters, was its name, Iron Will. The lone human ship had arrived. The alien transport's crew froze in disbelief. They had heard of the whispers, but to see it, this monster of steel and fire, made their hearts beat faster. The enemy ships, however, did not pause. They fired. Streams of burning plasma and missiles rushed toward the human vessel. The Iron Will did not dodge. It did not run. Instead, it roared. A single cannon fired from its side, and the void lit up. The blast was not elegant, but it was raw power. One enemy warship was torn apart instantly, its body splitting into fragments that spun like dead leaves. The other 2 tried to scatter, but the human ship was already moving. Its engines growled like thunder, dragging the ship forward with impossible speed for something so heavy. More weapons fired, shaking the very dark around them. Missiles streaked out, guided not by cold programming but by something far sharper, human instinct. One warship was gutted from bow to stern, the explosion so violent that even the alien transport miles away felt the shock. The last warship, desperate, tried to flee. But the Iron Will did not let prey escape. Its main gun turned, locked, and with one final roar, ended it. Silence returned. Only wreckage floated now. The refugees on the transport sat frozen, their breaths caught in their throats. They had just watched a single human ship destroy 3 warships in less than a minute. The captain, still gripping his console, whispered in disbelief, "One ship, only one." The comms crackled. A human voice came through, deep and calm, carrying no fear. "Transport vessel, you are safe now. Set your course to the nearest safe station. We will cover your path." The alien captain pressed the button with shaking claws. You are real." The whispers, they were true. The voice on the other end paused, then spoke again, colder now. "We are more than whispers. We are humanity's answer to those who think the galaxy belongs only to the strong. Remember this day. Tell everyone you meet. The Iron Will stands." And then, without waiting for thanks, the ship turned. Its engines flared, carrying it back toward the endless swarm of enemies in the distance. It was only one ship, yes, but it roared louder than 1,000 fleets. The refugees watched until the human vessel vanished into the stars. Hope, a fire long dead in their hearts, began to burn again. If one ship could fight like this, perhaps the galaxy was not lost. Perhaps there was still a chance. The legend of the Iron Will was no longer a whisper. It had begun. The galaxy did not sleep that night. From one star system to another, the story spread like wildfire. Entire colonies repeated the same words. A single human ship destroyed 3 enemy warships. Refugee fleets whispered it with disbelief, soldiers of broken armies clung to it with desperate hope, and leaders of fallen worlds demanded to know if it was true. But not everyone believed. Many thought it was a rumor born from fear. Some said the survivors of the alien transport were exaggerating, their minds broken by war. After all, no one had ever heard of humans leading fleets or commanding power that could rival the ancient empires. Humanity was small, a species that had entered the stars only a short time ago. They had colonies, yes, but no great empire. They had ships, yes, but no fleets to challenge the invaders. And yet, the wreckage was real. Enemy patrols returned with broken reports of missing warships. Satellite eyes recorded explosions in the void. Pieces of enemy hulls floated where the battle had been. There was no denying it, one ship had done the impossible. In the grand war chambers of the invaders, the news struck like poison. The commanders of the swarm gathered, their monstrous forms filling the council room. Their voices hissed in anger, echoing through the chamber. They had crushed entire civilizations with little resistance, yet now a single vessel had challenged them and won. It was a trick, one general spat, its eyes burning. No ship can stand against 3 of ours. Another slammed its claw on the table. Then explain the wreckage. Explain the lost crews. This iron will, it is a threat. For the first time, the invaders felt something they had not felt in a long time, concern. They had expected this war to be easy, a march across the stars. But the humans, it seemed, had teeth. Meanwhile, far from their war chambers, the lone human ship sailed through the dark. Inside the iron will, silence ruled the metal corridors. The crew was small compared to the massive alien fleets. Men and women walked with tired steps, their uniforms stained with sweat and oil. Every battle scar on their ship matched the scars they carried inside themselves. In the command room, Captain Elias Kane stood before the main display. His face was hard, his eyes sharp, the weight of many battles carved into the lines of his skin. He had been a soldier long before the iron will was ever built. To him, every victory carried a price, and every roar of their guns was a reminder of the lives they had to protect. Beside him, his second officer, a woman named Silver, studied the enemy movements across the display. "They know about us now," she said quietly. "The swarm won't ignore us again." "They shouldn't," Kane replied. His voice was calm, steady, almost cold. "Let them come. We'll show them what one ship can do." The crew believed in him. They believed in the ship. But outside, rumors turned into legends. Whole planets began to sing the name Iron Will. Some called it the Beast of Steel, others the Roar of Humanity. Refugees prayed for its arrival when enemy fleets approached, and broken armies waited for its shadow to appear on their scanners. In the midst of this rising hope, a message reached the humans aboard. A desperate signal from a system under siege. An entire planet was about to fall, its defenders already shattered, its skies burning under the swarm's fire. Millions of lives screamed for help. The iron will could not ignore it. The crew gathered, their faces lit by the red glow of warning lights. "If we go there," Silver warned, "we face not 3 ships, but dozens. Maybe hundreds. We may not return." Captain Kane looked at them, each one ready to fight, each one knowing death could come. His voice was steady, but his words struck deep. "We are not a fleet. We are not an empire. But we are humanity's blade. If we don't go, who will? If we fall, then let us fall so loud that the galaxy remembers." The ship turned its course. Engines roared. The iron will raced toward the burning planet. In the war chamber of the invaders, another voice hissed. "The human ship has answered the call again. It moves toward the siege at Soria Prime." The alien commander leaned forward, its eyes glowing with cruel delight. "Good. Let it come. This time, we will not send 3 ships. We will send 50. The humans wish to roar. Then let us see if they can roar against a storm." The stage was set. A planet cried for help. A lone ship answered. And an entire swarm waited to crush it. The skies of Soria Prime burned red. From the surface, millions of terrified eyes watched as enemy ships darkened their sky. Massive cruisers floated like monsters above the clouds, firing streams of fire down into the cities. Towers collapsed, the ground shook, and the air was filled with screams. The defenders of the planet had already fallen. Their fleets were ash, their stations broken. Now only the civilians remained, waiting for death. In the deep bunkers, families huddled together. Children clung to their parents. Old ones whispered prayers. No one expected rescue. 4 days, the swarm had crushed every fleet that tried to defend Soria Prime. And now, the people waited for the last strike that would end them. But then, someone saw it. High above the burning atmosphere, cutting through the smoke and fire, a shape appeared. It was not large. It was not beautiful. It was a single scarred ship, its armor black with the memory of old battles. It came alone, engines burning like angry suns. The Iron Will had arrived. The people of Soria Prime gasped. Many thought it was a hallucination, a trick of the smoke. But the soldiers who still clung to their broken weapons whispered the name with shaking voices. It's real, the human ship, it came. In orbit, the swarm noticed at once. Their scanners screamed warnings. 50 warships turned their attention to the lone intruder. The commander of the fleet snarled. The human has arrived. Destroy it. The enemy ships shifted formation, like predators circling prey. Their weapons lit the void with deadly light. Against such power, no single ship should survive. Inside the Iron Will, alarms echoed through the steel corridors. Red lights painted the faces of the crew. Each one knew what waited outside, death. Yet no one turned away. Captain Kane stood at the front, his hands behind his back, his voice steady. They wanted us to come. They want to crush us here. Good. Let's show them how wrong they are. The crew's eyes burned with fire. They had faced death many times before, but never like this. Yet they were ready. Engage. Kane roared. The Iron Will charged forward. The swarm unleashed their fury. Dozens of cannons fired at once, waves of burning plasma tearing through the dark. The human ship shook as blasts hammered its shields. Metal screamed, alarms blared. Yet it did not fall. Instead, its own cannons answered. The roar of the Iron Will shook the void. A massive railgun shot ripped through the nearest enemy cruiser, tearing it open in a single strike. Missiles burst from hidden bays, weaving between enemy fire and striking their marks with brutal precision. 3 warships exploded almost at once, their fragments scattering across the stars. But 50 ships were not so easily defeated. The swarm pressed harder, surrounding the lone human vessel. Their numbers swallowed the dark, their weapons a storm of endless fire. The Iron Will was hit again and again. Armor cracked, corridors filled with smoke, but the ship refused to stop. The crew fought with everything they had, rerouting power, sealing broken decks, shouting commands through the chaos. On the planet below, the people watched in awe. The skies flashed with fire as one ship fought against an entire fleet. Each time the human vessel roared, another enemy ship fell. For the first time in days, cheers rose from the bunkers. Hope returned to their eyes. But hope was fragile. Inside the command room, Silver's face was pale. Shields at 30%. We can't take much more. Kane's voice was steel. Then make every shot count. The Iron Will dove between 2 enemy cruisers, engines screaming as it twisted through the storm. Its guns fired point blank, tearing one apart, then slamming into the other. Explosions lit the sky like suns. The crew cheered, but it was short-lived. Alarms screamed louder now. Hull breaches tore through the lower decks. Fires spread. The ship was bleeding. Still, Kane did not falter. He stood tall, his eyes locked on the enemy flagship, a monstrous vessel, larger than all the rest, watching the battle from the shadows. It had not fired yet. It was waiting. Silver followed his gaze. They're saving their strongest for last. Kane nodded slowly. Then we'll carve a path straight to it. The crew fell silent. The idea was madness. To cut through the swarm and face the flagship alone? It was suicide. But in their captain's voice, there was no doubt. Only resolve. The Iron Will turned its course, engines burning hotter than ever. Like a beast wounded but unbroken, it charged straight into the storm. Enemy ships rushed to block its path. One by one, they unleashed their fire. The human ship roared back, tearing holes through their formation. Every shot was fury, every blast a message, "We will not bow." The people of Soria Prime watched with tears in their eyes. They had expected to die that day. Instead, they watched a lone ship fight for them, fight like 1,000 fleets. And as the Iron Will cut closer and closer to the enemy flagship, one truth became clear: win or lose, the galaxy would never forget this battle. The flagship waited. It hung in the void like a dark mountain, larger than a city, its hull bristling with weapons. The swarm ships circled it like wolves, but none dared block its view. This was the beast at the heart of the invasion, the command ship that had led the slaughter of entire civilizations. Its guns had burned planets. Its shadow had ended empires. Now, one human ship raced toward it. The Iron Will was broken and battered. Armor peeled away, fire burned in its lower decks, and the engines spat sparks with every thrust. Yet it did not stop. Every blast of its cannons, every missile fired, pushed it closer to the monster that awaited. Inside the flagship, the alien commander watched with cold amusement. Its body was wrapped in black armor, its many eyes glowing red. Around it, generals hissed and growled, demanding the human ship be destroyed. But the commander only raised a claw, silencing them. "Let it come," the creature said. Its voice was like poison dripping from stone. "Let it see the power that crushed 1,000 worlds." On the Iron Will, Captain Kane stood in silence as the enemy filled the screen. His crew looked to him, waiting, their faces covered with sweat, soot, and determination. Silver's voice trembled. "That thing, it's a fortress. We can't destroy it." Kane's eyes narrowed, hard as steel. "Maybe not. But we can hurt it. And hurting it will mean more than killing 100 lesser ships." The crew nodded. They knew what this battle meant. If they could scar the flagship, if they could show it was not untouchable, the galaxy would believe. The distance closed. Then the flagship opened fire. Light brighter than suns cut across the dark. Massive cannons hurled plasma storms that could shatter mountains. The Iron Will shook violently, its shields screaming as they struggled to hold. Metal tore, decks split, and crew members were thrown from their stations. "Shields at 10%, someone shouted. Kane's voice was iron. "Hold steady. Bring all power to the main gun." The ship roared in reply. Its railgun lit up, charging with energy that hummed through every deck. The gun fired, a blinding spear of light tearing across the void. It slammed into the flagship's armor, shaking it, cracking it. Sparks flew from the monster's skin, and for the first time, the invaders flinched. The crew of the Iron Will cheered, but the flagship answered with fury. Missiles rained down, cannons blazed, beams of light carved across space. The human ship twisted, engines screaming as it dodged what it could and endured what it couldn't. Explosions tore through its sides, flames spread, oxygen leaked into the void. Still, it fought on. The people of Soria Prime watched from below, their eyes wide with terror and awe. To them, the lone ship looked like a torch burning against a hurricane. Every time it was struck, they gasped. Every time it roared back, they shouted with hope. Children pointed at the sky, their voices shaking, "The human ship is fighting for us." Inside the flagship, the alien commander's smile faded. "Impossible," it hissed. "It should already be dust." Another general snarled. "It is only one vessel. Why does it not break?" The commander slammed its claw into the table, cracking metal. "Because it is human. And humans refuse to die." Back on the Iron Will, Silver shouted over the chaos. "We can't take another volley. Captain, what do we do?" Kane's voice was steady, even as the deck shook beneath him. "We hit them harder. Aim for their command array. If we blind them, even for a moment, the galaxy will know they can bleed." The crew worked furiously, their hands moving through smoke and sparks. The main railgun charged once more, its hum growing louder, deeper, until it was a scream of power. The flagship turned all its weapons toward them. For a heartbeat, the void held its breath. Then both ships fired. The flagship unleashed a storm, dozens of cannons blasting at once. Beams of fire struck the Iron Will, tearing it apart piece by piece. But at the same time, the human ship's railgun spat its fury. The shot tore through the dark, a single blazing lance, and struck the flagship's command array. The explosion was thunder in the void. Flames ripped across the alien fortress, fire spilling from its massive hull. Systems shorted out, lights flickered, and the great beast shuddered as if in pain. On the iron will, alarms blared louder than ever. Hull breaches spread, fires raged, power died across half the ship. Crew members dragged the wounded, sealing doors with their bare hands. But through the chaos, one sound cut clear, the cheers of the people below, echoing across every bunker and ruin of Soria Prime. "They hurt it," voices cried. "The human ship hurt the monster." The legend grew in that instant. One ship, one roar, had scarred the beast that had destroyed entire civilizations. Inside the flagship, the alien commander rose, its body trembling with rage. Its voice was a hiss of fury. "End them. End that ship. No trace, no wreckage, no memory left." The swarm began to close in again, dozens of warships tightening around the wounded iron will. The battle was not over. Captain Kane stood tall in the smoke-filled command room, his voice cutting through the alarms. "We made them bleed. Now let's make them fear." The crew, bruised, burned, and blooded, answered as one. "Aye, Captain." The iron will, broken but unbowed, turned its guns once more to face the storm. The iron will drifted in smoke and flame. Its hull was torn, whole sections dark, and fires spread through its broken decks. The crew worked like ghosts in the chaos, dragging the wounded, patching holes with their bare hands, and shouting over the roar of alarms. Yet even in ruin, the ship still lived. The swarm tightened its circle around them. Dozens of alien warships glided closer, their weapons glowing, ready to deliver the final strike. The flagship, though scarred, still loomed in the distance, watching, waiting for the human vessel to be destroyed. On the Iron Will's bridge, Silver wiped soot from her face and looked to Captain Kane. "We can't fight them all," she said, her voice raw. "We've already given everything. If we stay here, we're finished." Kane stood in silence for a moment, his eyes fixed on the enemy ships surrounding them. His face was carved from stone, his hands steady. At last, he spoke. "Then we don't stay here. We break their circle. We strike once more, and we run." A young crewman, his uniform torn, looked up with disbelief. "Through all of them? That's suicide." Kane's voice was calm, steady, like the deep growl of the ship itself. "So is waiting here. Better to die roaring than to be picked apart like prey." The crew looked at one another. Their faces were pale, their bodies bruised, but in their eyes was the same fire that lived in their captains. One by one, they nodded. "Then let's roar," Silver whispered. The engines screamed to life. Sparks shot from the panels as systems overloaded, but the ship moved. Slowly at first, then faster, the iron will surged forward. The swarm responded at once. Enemy cannons lit the void, plasma fire and missiles streaking toward the lone human vessel. The ship shook as blasts tore into it, ripping more armor away, opening more wounds. The crew held on, teeth gritted, hands bleeding on their stations. "Shields gone," someone shouted. "Reroute everything to the engines." Kane ordered. "We cut through or we die here." The iron will returned fire. Its railgun boomed, tearing apart a cruiser blocking its path. Missiles streaked from its sides, slamming into enemy ships and forcing them to scatter. The human vessel punched forward, smashing its way through the wall of fire. The people on Soria Prime watched the sky in silence. Their breaths held as the human ship, burning and broken, fought its way through a storm that no fleet had ever survived. Every explosion lit the heavens, every roar of its cannons sent a tremor of hope through their hearts. But the swarm pressed harder. More ships closed in, more fire rained down. The iron will shuddered as a massive blast ripped through its side, tearing open a deck and flinging bodies into the void. For a moment, it seemed the ship might stop. Then Kane's voice thundered. "We are not done. Not today." The crew roared back, their voices rising above the alarms. They sealed the breach, redirected power, and forced the ship onward. And then, an idea sparked. Silver's eyes widened as she stared at the tactical display. "Captain, if we overload the secondary reactors, we could trigger a blast big enough to clear a path through the swarm." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Overloading the reactors could tear the ship apart. Kane's face was shadowed in the red light. He didn't answer at first. Then, slowly, he nodded. Do it. The crew moved quickly, their hands flying across the controls. Deep inside the ship, the reactors screamed as power surged beyond safe limits. Lights flickered, the hull trembled, and the engines glowed brighter than ever. The swarm sensed the danger. Their commanders shouted, their ships pulling back, but it was too late. Now! Kane roared. The iron will unleash its fury. The reactors flared, a wave of raw energy bursting outward. The blast ripped through the enemy line, tearing ships apart, scattering others into chaos. For one blazing moment, the human ship shone like a second star, burning brighter than all the darkness around it. When the light faded, a gap had opened. Dozens of enemy ships floated in ruins, their hulks drifting silently. The path to escape was clear. But the cost was heavy. The iron will shook violently, its systems collapsing, its hull screaming as if the ship itself was alive and in pain. Fires spread through every deck, oxygen bled into space, and the crew fought to keep the vessel from breaking apart. Silver clung to her console, her voice hoarse. Engines are failing, Captain. If we don't jump soon, we won't make it. Kane's jaw tightened. His eyes burned with determination. Set the coordinates. Get us out of here. The engines, cracked and broken, gave one last roar. The iron will surged forward, limping through the gap it had torn, leaving behind the wreckage of dozens of enemy ships. On the planet below, the people of Soria Prime erupted into cheers and tears. Their skies were still burning, their cities still broken, but hope had returned. They had seen the impossible with their own eyes, a single ship defying a swarm, a single roar silencing thousands. And though the iron will vanished into the dark, every soul on Soria Prime knew one truth: humanity was not done. The war was far from over. The galaxy trembled with the news. The battle at Soria Prime was not hidden, not covered in silence. Too many eyes had seen it. Too many voices carried the story. Entire networks buzzed with one name: Iron Will. On broken colonies, refugees cheered through their tears. In hidden bunkers, soldiers of fallen armies lifted their weapons again with pride. Even in the halls of great empires that had once mocked humanity, rulers now whispered in secret. A single human ship had faced 50 warships and lived. It had scarred the enemy flagship. It had roared in the face of death, and survived. But for every voice of hope, there was a voice of fear. If one ship could do this, the enemy would not forgive. The swarm was not blind, and it was not merciful. It would answer, and it would answer with fire. Inside the flagship of the invaders, silence reigned. The massive vessel floated in the dark, its scar still glowing from the wound the Iron Will had delivered. The commander stood before its generals, its body trembling with fury. This should not have happened, it hissed. Its claws dug into the steel floor. We are the swarm. We crush all who resist. Yet one ship, one human ship, has made us bleed. The generals bowed their heads in shame, but fear ran through their veins. Never before had their mighty fleets been shamed by a single vessel. The commander raised its head, eyes burning with hate. No more whispers. No more legends. Hunt them. Tear the human ship apart. I want their captain broken, their crew scattered into the void, their name erased from memory. The swarm howled in agreement. Across star systems, new orders spread. Armadas were redirected. Traps were prepared. The full fury of the swarm would fall on humanity. But the humans were not idle. Far across the stars, in a hidden dockyard orbiting a barren moon, the Iron Will floated in silence. Its hull was cracked and blackened, whole sections missing, as if it had barely crawled back from hell. Repair crews swarmed over its body, welding plates, replacing engines, and patching the scars. Inside, the crew moved like shadows, exhausted but alive. Their uniforms were burned, their faces pale, but their spirits unbroken. They spoke in hushed voices of what they had done, of the battle they had survived. And though they were tired, pride burned in their eyes. In the command room, Kane stood before the viewing glass, watching the endless dark. His hands were clasped behind his back, his face grim. Silver entered quietly. She carried reports, but she did not speak of them. Instead, her voice was soft. "The galaxy is speaking your name, Captain. They call you the man who made the swarm bleed." Kane did not turn. His voice was low. "Names don't win wars. Guns do. Ships do. People willing to stand do." He paused, then added, "But if hope spreads because of us, then that's worth more than any victory." Silver studied him for a moment, then nodded. "The swarm won't forget. They'll come for us with everything they have." Kane's lips pressed into a thin line. "Good. Let them. Every time they come, we'll show them humanity doesn't bow." But deep inside, he knew the truth. The Iron Will could not fight forever. One ship, no matter how strong, could not hold back an entire empire. Humanity needed more. And soon, the galaxy began to answer. Small fleets from broken empires began to gather. Old warships, scarred and forgotten, were pulled from graveyards. Alien captains, once cowards, sent messages to the humans, "We will fight with you." The legend of the Iron Will had done what no treaty or empire could. It united the broken under one banner. Humanity was no longer seen as weak. They were the spark in the dark, the roar in the silence. But in the swarm's dark halls, the commander prepared its own plan. It studied the human ship again and again, watching every battle, every maneuver. It learned the rhythm of its guns, the strength of its shields, the limits of its engines. And then it whispered a cruel order: "Build a weapon. A weapon that no human steel can endure. With it, we will break their will." Across the swarm's forges, construction began. Massive factories worked without rest, forging something monstrous. And as the galaxy whispered hope, a shadow grew in the dark. Back on the Iron Will, repairs continued. Sparks lit the air, steel sang as new armor was welded, and systems flickered back to life. The crew watched as their ship, scarred and weary, slowly rose again. One young crewman, his arm wrapped in bandages, stood at the viewing glass and whispered to himself, "We should have died. But we didn't. Maybe that means we can win." Kane, standing beside him, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. His eyes were steady, filled with fire. "We're still here. And as long as we're here, we'll fight." Outside, the stars burned cold and endless. Somewhere out there, the swarm was preparing for its revenge. Somewhere out there, a weapon was being forged to kill them. But the Iron Will was not afraid. It had roared once, and the galaxy had heard. It would roar again. The swarm's weapon was ready. In the heart of a black nebula, far from the eyes of the galaxy, a new beast was born. It was not just a ship, it was a fortress, larger than any fleet, shaped like a dagger meant to pierce the stars. Its guns were endless, its armor thicker than mountains, and at its core burned a weapon made only for one purpose: to kill the Iron Will. The swarm named it Eternal Silence. And when it moved, entire systems shook. Across the galaxy, whispers carried the warning. The swarm has built something new. A monster greater than any before. Fear spread again, drowning the fragile hope the Iron Will had lit. Some said the human ship could not survive this time. Some said the legend was over. But Captain Kane did not bend. On the dockyard's edge, the Iron Will stood whole again. Its scars were patched, its engines stronger, its weapons sharper. The crew, though weary, walked with new strength. They had seen death and returned. They had carried hope across the stars. And now they would face the final storm. In the command room, Silver delivered the report. "The swarm superweapon is moving toward Vega Reach. Billions live there. If it arrives." She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Kane's voice was steady. "Then we intercept it. One ship against their monster. Just like always." The crew did not question him. They knew what waited, and still, they nodded. The Iron Will roared to life. Engines burned, weapons charged, and once again it sailed alone into the dark. At Vega Reach, the skies turned black. The Eternal Silence arrived, dwarfing the planet below. Its shadow swallowed cities, its guns pointed down like gods ready to strike. Panic erupted across the world. Refugees screamed, soldiers prepared for death, and every eye turned upward, waiting for salvation, or the end. And then, from the stars, salvation came. The Iron Will burst into the system, scarred but unbroken, its engines blazing like fire. Its comms thundered across the planet, carried to every bunker, every ship, every soldier. "This is Captain Kane of the human vessel Iron Will. You are not alone. We will fight for you." Cheers erupted through Vega Reach. Children cried out the ship's name. The legend had returned. The swarm, however, answered with laughter. Their commanders hissed orders, and the eternal silence turned its guns toward the lone challenger. The battle began. The sky lit with fury. The eternal silence unleashed storms of fire, entire volleys that could destroy fleets in seconds. The Iron Will danced through the storm, dodging, twisting, answering with every gun it had. Its railgun roared, missiles streaked, cannons hammered. Each strike was a roar, defiant and proud. But the superweapon was no ordinary enemy. Its armor absorbed the blows, its shield shrugged off missiles, and its massive guns struck harder and harder. The Iron Will shook violently, entire decks breaking apart. Crew members were thrown to the floor, alarms screamed, and the ship bled fire into the void. Silver shouted, "We can't pierce it. Its defenses are too strong." Kane's eyes narrowed. His voice was cold steel. "Every fortress has a heart. Find it." Hours of battle blurred into minutes. The Iron Will was nearly broken, its hull cracked, its engines failing. But Silver's eyes suddenly lit with fire. "Captain! Their core weapon, it charges from a ventral array. If we hit that, we could trigger a chain reaction." Kane's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then that's where we strike." The crew poured everything into the final charge. The engines roared, the guns fired, and the Iron Will dove straight into the storm, heading for the beast's belly. The swarm unleashed their fury, thousands of blasts hammering the human ship. Hulls tore, flames engulfed the corridors, but still it pressed forward. "Main gun ready," Silver shouted. Kane stood tall, his voice echoing through the chaos. "Fire!" The railgun spat its final roar. The shot pierced the ventral core of the eternal silence. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the monster shuddered. Fire spread across its body, cracks tearing through its armor. And then, it exploded. The blast lit the stars, brighter than a sun. The eternal silence tore itself apart, fragments scattering across the void. But the Iron Will was caught in the shockwave. The ship screamed, its hull breaking, its decks collapsing. The crew clung to their stations, alarms blaring louder than ever. Engines failing. Silver cried, "We won't survive the blast." Kane's eyes stayed locked on the burning wreckage of the enemy. His voice was calm, steady, unbroken. "Then we'll die knowing we won." The ship twisted in the flames, falling into silence. But then, as the fire faded, scanners lit with new signals. Fleets, dozens of them, emerged from the dark. Not swarm, but allies. Ships from broken empires, from refugee colonies, from every world that had once hidden in fear. They had come together, inspired by the Iron Will. The fleet swarmed in, dragging the human vessel from the fire, shielding it, saving it. Cheers erupted across Vega Reach, across the galaxy itself. The swarm's weapon was gone. The Iron Will had survived. The legend was complete. One ship, one roar, had been louder than 1,000 fleets. Humanity had stood alone, and the galaxy had risen behind them.